Listen to me, young man, and hear this truth. The foundation of your life is not built on grand gestures or fleeting moments of inspiration. It is built in the quiet hours of the morning when the world is still, and your character is forged in the solitude of discipline. You cannot expect to live a life of strength if you do not rise early, if you do not seize the day before it seizes you. The morning is not just a time, it is a proving ground. It is where your commitment is tested, where your resolve is solidified. When you rise early, you declare to the world that you are not a slave to your circumstances, but a master of your destiny. You take control of the day before it has a chance to take control of you. But this is not just about waking up early. It is about what you do with that time. It is about immersing yourself in the Word of God, allowing it to shape your thoughts, to guide your actions. The Scriptures are not a mere book. They are the very breath of life. They are the sword that will defend you against the lies of this world, the light that will guide you through the darkness. And do not think that this is easy. It is not. It requires sacrifice. It requires discipline. It requires you to say no to the comforts of the flesh and yes to the demands of the Spirit. But know this, every moment you spend in the presence of God, every moment you spend in His Word, is an investment in your future. It is building a life that will stand firm when the storms come. Do not be deceived by the fleeting pleasures of this world. They will not satisfy you. They will not give you the strength you need to face the challenges of life. Only in the presence of God, only in His Word, will you find the strength to live a life of purpose and meaning. So rise early, seek God, immerse yourself in His Word, build a strong foundation in the quiet hours of the morning, and watch as your life becomes a testament to His faithfulness. Do not wait for the perfect moment. Create it. Do not wait for the world to change. Change yourself. And in doing so, you will change the world around you. Rising early is not just a habit. It's a declaration of mastery over one's life. The morning is where your will is tested and your resolve is shaped. The foundation of a strong life begins with intentional discipline in the early hours. Mornings are not just for physical preparation, but for spiritual strengthening. Immersing oneself in the Word of God is essential. True strength comes from communion with God, not from self-help routines or worldly motivation. Strong mornings are not built on comfort, but on sacrifice. Discipline demands turning from the ease of the flesh and embracing the demands of the Spirit. Strength is forged in the battle between comfort and calling. The early pursuit of God and discipline doesn't just prepare you for a good day, it prepares you for a meaningful life. Morning faithfulness builds long-term resilience and transforms not only you but the world around you. Let me speak plainly and urgently, because there is no time for flattery or sweetened words. You must understand that the man who begins his day in indifference is already behind. The man who sleeps in and lets the day come upon him like a thief has handed over his strength before he has even opened his eyes. Do you not know that discipline is not something you can borrow from others or fake until the pressure lifts? It is a thing that must be forged in the hidden places, in the quiet hours, in the darkness just before dawn. If you cannot govern yourself before the world lays its hands on you, how do you expect to stand when it does? You see, a strong life does not begin at some dramatic turning point. It does not begin when your name is known, or when your dream comes true, or when you're finally noticed for the things you've done. No, a strong life begins in the little decisions. It begins when no one is watching. It begins when the alarm sounds and your flesh cries out to stay in bed, and you choose to rise. You must learn to master yourself when it is most difficult, when the reward is not immediate, when the results are invisible. Because strength, true strength, is not built in a moment of adrenaline, but in years of obedience. Why is the morning so crucial? Because the morning is when your soul is most honest. Before the distractions come, before the expectations of others flood your mind, before the pull of the world begins to weigh on you, you have a moment of clarity. And what you do with that moment speaks volumes about the direction of your life. If you fill it with laziness, with excuses, with delays, then you are teaching yourself to be governed by ease. But if you fill it with discipline, with prayer, with reflection, with stillness before God, then you are training yourself for godliness. Some people think that discipline is about pushing yourself harder than others, about showing off how early you can rise or how many tasks you can complete. That is not what I am talking about. I am not speaking of discipline that is fueled by pride or comparison. I am talking about discipline that is birthed in reverence, discipline that knows the morning is not yours, it is God's. Discipline that says, my life is not my own, and therefore my time is not my own. Discipline that says, before I give myself to the world, I will first give myself to the one who made me. What a tragedy it is that so many people live without purpose simply because they refuse to establish order in the morning. You cannot expect to drift through your day and arrive at the destination of meaning. You cannot sow chaos in the morning and reap peace in the evening. You cannot let your flesh dictate your first steps and then demand that your spirit lead the rest. It doesn't work that way. The man who walks in strength is the one who fights the hardest battles when no one else sees them. The man who learns to rule over himself when no one is watching is the one who will not be ruled by the pressures of the world when they come knocking. You think that greatness is born on stages, that strength is revealed in popularity or applause. No, strength is revealed in silence. Strength is revealed when the room is dark and your body is weary and you say, nevertheless, I will rise. Strength is built when you deny yourself that extra hour of sleep not out of guilt, but out of conviction. Because you know that the day ahead is not a thing to be survived, but a thing to be stewarded. There is something powerful about a man who begins his day in discipline. It is not because he is better than others. It is because he is anchored. He is not swayed by every change in emotion. He is not thrown off by interruption or trial. He has already prepared himself. He has already laid the foundation. And let me tell you, there will be storms. There will be pressure. There will be temptations and failures and setbacks. But the man who has built his life on morning discipline will not fall when those things come, because he has trained himself to listen to a higher voice, and that voice speaks loudest in the morning. It's not just about avoiding sin. It's about pursuing excellence. It's about not being satisfied with just getting through the day. It's about saying, I will offer this day as a living sacrifice. I will not waste it. I will not drift through it hoping for meaning. I will meet the morning with focus, with fire, with intentionality. That kind of mindset is not stumbled upon. It is cultivated, and it is cultivated in discipline. Some of you wonder why you feel so scattered, why you feel weak in the face of temptation, why your mind feels dull and your spirit feels distant. Let me ask you, how do you begin your day? What do you give your first moments to? Because the first moments are the seed, and what you plant in the morning will determine the fruit you see throughout the day. If you plant laziness, don't be surprised when you reap regret. If you plant distraction, don't be surprised when you reap confusion. But if you plant discipline, oh, what a harvest there will be. I'm not telling you this because I want you to feel guilty. I'm telling you this because I want you to be free. I want you to live in strength, and I have never known a man of strength who was ruled by comfort. Never. The man who lets comfort lead him will always be chasing fulfillment, but never find it. But the man who disciplines himself, who trains his mind and body and soul each morning, that man will know peace, even in chaos. He will know purpose, even in the mundane, because he has submitted himself to something greater than his own desires. And don't misunderstand me. This is not about perfection. This is about direction. You will fail. You will sleep in sometimes. You will miss the mark. But if the direction of your life is marked by discipline, you will grow. You will change. You will strengthen. And that strength will not just serve you. It will serve others. It will bless your family. It will lift your community, because strong men do not live for themselves. They are pillars for others to lean on, and a pillar must be strong at its core. That core is built in the morning, so stop waiting for motivation. It will not come. Stop waiting for circumstances to make it easier. They won't. You must decide, now, that the morning is yours to win or lose. You must decide that your life is too valuable to be wasted in indifference. You must decide that even if no one else sees your discipline, even if no one else celebrates it, it is still worth it. Because God sees, and more than that, the man you are becoming will thank you for it. It is a grave mistake to think you can live a life of strength without the discipline of the morning. It is like trying to build a house without laying a foundation. It may stand for a moment, but the moment the wind comes, it will fall. But the man who wakes up early, who centers himself in truth, who trains his thoughts and brings his body under control, that man will not be shaken. He is not built on sand, but on stone. You don't have to look far to see what happens when men lose discipline. You don't have to look far to see the cost of wasted mornings. It's in the drift of values. It's in the erosion of purpose. It's in the slow decay of potential. But there is hope. There is always hope. And that hope is found in small acts of obedience, not in changing everything overnight, but in choosing to rise. To start to train one morning at a time, and if you do over time, you will become unrecognizable, not because of some overnight transformation, but because each day will build on the last. Each morning will become a stone, and those stones will become a fortress against distraction, a fortress against temptation, a fortress that others can take shelter in. So let your mornings be sacred. Let them be intentional. Let them be a time when you declare war on complacency. Let them be a time when you reject the lie that you were made for mediocrity, because you weren't. You were made for greatness, not the greatness the world applauds, but the greatness that endures. The greatness that stands firm. The greatness that comes from a heart set on discipline. And that discipline begins when the world is still asleep. That discipline begins when you choose to rise. Let me tell you the truth that so many ignore, that so many rush past in their chase for productivity, in their hunt for success. It is not enough to merely rise early. It is not enough to stretch your limbs and fill your morning with tasks. A man can wake before the sun every day of his life and still walk in weakness, still stumble through confusion, still drown in sin. Why? Because strength is not found in the hour of waking, but in what you wake for. The soul that rises early without rising to meet God has already missed the very point of morning itself. There is no substitute for spiritual devotion, no productivity system, no checklist, no journal, no cold shower, no motivational quote. No daily planner can breathe life into a soul. What is a morning filled with activity if the heart is empty? What is a schedule if the soul is starving? Spiritual devotion is not one part of your morning routine. It is the heart of it. Without it, everything else becomes vanity. Without it, even discipline becomes pride. Do not think for 1 second that you can stand in the chaos of this world without being rooted in the presence of God. You may fake strength before men, but when the darkness comes, and it will come, your pretense will be exposed. Because strength does not come from mere habits, it comes from Him. And the morning is when you meet Him, not because He was absent during the night, but because the early hours are where distractions are few, and your ears can still hear. You may say, I am not a morning person, but God is. He meets His people in the stillness. He calls to those who seek Him early, not because the clock holds power, but because the soul is humbled in the early hours. The pride of man sleeps late, the laziness of the flesh delays, but the hungry rise, the thirsty come, the desperate kneel, and if you want to live in strength, you must learn to be among them. What is spiritual devotion? It is not simply reading a verse and checking a box. It is not merely mumbling a few words and moving on. It is the posture of the heart before a holy God. It is the soul that says, I need you more than sleep. I need you more than answers. I need you more than comfort. That is the beginning of spiritual strength. That is where the morning finds its power, not in your discipline alone, but in your dependence. Do not approach God in the morning like He is a tool to be used for your day. He is not your assistant. He is not your life coach. He is your Creator. He is your King. He is your Savior. Come before Him with awe. Come before Him with reverence. Come before Him with trembling and joy, knowing that you are speaking with the One who holds your breath in His hand. That is what fuels a strong life, not just physical order, but spiritual fire. You may think that spiritual devotion is too slow, too quiet, too uneventful to matter. That is because your soul has been dulled by noise. But let me ask you, what has noise ever built? What has rushing ever produced that lasts? The man who seeks God first walks slower, but walks surer. The man who begins his morning on his knees is not behind. He is ahead, because he has placed his day into the hands of the only one who knows the end from the beginning. The world tells you that you must fill your morning with movement. I tell you that your greatest movement is stillness before God, because the man who waits on the Lord renews his strength, not the man who scrolls, not the man who checks his email, not the man who runs to his goals, but the man who waits, the man who listens, the man who worships. Do you think spiritual devotion is a luxury, that you'll get to it if there's time? Then you do not understand what it is. It is oxygen. It is water. It is bread. Your soul is dying without it, and you do not even see it because you've filled your life with substitutes. You've built a routine that looks good but feels hollow, and deep down you know it. You know there's something missing, that something is not a better system. It is the living presence of the Almighty. How long will you offer your mornings to things that do not satisfy? How long will you let your first thoughts be consumed by screens, by messages, by your to-do list? Do you not realize that the first voice you listen to in the morning often becomes the loudest voice throughout your day? If you begin with the world, you will walk in anxiety. If you begin with yourself, you will walk in pride. But if you begin with God, you will walk in peace. You will walk in purpose. You will walk in power. Not the power of self, but the power of surrender. The Scriptures are not merely words. They are the breath of God. They are sharper than any sword. They expose, they correct, they build, they sustain. And yet, so many ignore them in the most crucial part of the day. Tell me, how do you expect to discern truth in a world full of lies if you do not fill your mind with truth before the lies even begin? The man who begins his morning with God walks into a lying world with a guarded heart. The man who skips the word walks naked into battle, and prayer, what a gift, and yet what a burden to the flesh. The flesh despises prayer. It whispers, you don't have time, you have work to do, you're too tired, you'll pray later. But the Spirit knows better. The Spirit cries out, if I don't pray now, I'll be lost today. If I don't seek Him now, I'll walk in confusion. I'll be led by my emotions. I'll chase the wind. Prayer is not a religious obligation. It is the lifeline of the soul, and there is no better time to hold that line than in the morning. Some of you are walking in constant defeat, not because you are too weak, but because you are too proud to kneel. You are too distracted to focus. You are too busy to slow down, and in doing so, you have traded the strength of God for the hustle of man. You have exchanged the peace of the Spirit for the noise of the culture. You wake up and run, thinking you are strong, but you are not running toward the Lord. You are running away from Him, but it doesn't have to be this way. There is mercy, there is grace. Even now, He calls you back. Even now, He whispers, come to me, all who are weary. And if you respond, not with excuses, but with humility, your mornings can become sacred again. They can become strong again, because they are not about you, they are about Him. When you see that, when you believe that, everything changes. You won't want to miss the morning anymore. You'll long for it. You'll protect it. Because you'll know that in those quiet moments, before the world stirs, you meet with the one who matters most. And when that becomes your rhythm, your reality, then watch what happens. Watch how your thoughts begin to change. Watch how your responses are no longer shaped by fear, but by faith. Watch how your temptations lose their grip. Watch how your goals align with His glory. This is what spiritual devotion does. It rewires the soul. It restores the mind. It renews the heart. Not all at once, but day by day, moment by moment, morning by morning. You may think you don't have time for this. Let me be honest with you. You don't have time not to. Every day you live without spiritual devotion, you are vulnerable. You are exposed. You are walking into a war without a weapon. You are trying to build a life without a foundation. Don't be surprised when it collapses. Don't blame others when you fall. Take ownership, take responsibility, and take up the morning for what it was meant to be, meeting place with the living God. If you believe that you were made for something more, then prove it in the morning. If you believe that your life has purpose, then seek the one who gave it to you. If you want to walk in truth, then begin each day by listening to the only voice that speaks it perfectly. You will never be strong unless you are first surrendered, and you will never surrender unless you stop long enough to kneel. This is not about legalism. It's about reality. A man who does not eat will grow weak. A man who does not drink will die. And a soul that does not seek God in the morning will walk through the day in spiritual fog. You don't need more time. You need more clarity. And clarity comes from the quiet place, the sacred place, where it's just you and God. Do not envy the man who looks strong on the outside, but is empty within. Do not chase the image of strength. Chase its source, and the source is not in you. It is not in your plans. It is not in your hustle. It is in Christ. It is in communion with Him. It is in knowing Him, trusting Him, hearing from Him. And that begins not someday, not later, but now, this morning, and every morning after that. We live in a world that has trained you to believe that comfort is the highest goal, that ease is the mark of blessing, that the good life is one where nothing is denied and everything is instantly granted. But that is a lie. That is a poison, cleverly disguised and widely accepted. You will not grow through comfort. You will not mature through ease. You will not become strong while chasing what is soft. If you want to grow, truly grow, then you must understand this. Sacrifice and self-denial are not optional. They are essential. There is no maturity without cost. There is no transformation without surrender. There is no strength without pain. The path to strength is narrow, and it is uphill. It is marked by blood and sweat, by early mornings, and painful choices. It is not for those who are ruled by their appetites. It is not for those who are slaves to their feelings. It is for those who have resolved deep in their soul, I will not be mastered by anything but truth. And truth often demands that you deny yourself, that you say no when everything in you screams yes, that you walk away when everything in your flesh begs you to stay, that you pick up the cross and follow, even when the path ahead is dark and the cost is high. Don't you see, the greatest enemy to your growth is not the devil, it's not the world, it's the man in the mirror who refuses to die, that voice inside that always seeks the easy way, that heart that whispers just this once, or you deserve this, that longing to be applauded, to be liked, to be fed what tastes good but kills slowly, that is what must be crucified, and not once, every day, every morning, again and again. There is a kind of strength that comes only through the repeated act of saying no to yourself. And it's not glamorous. No one claps for self-denial. No one posts it on social media, but heaven sees it, and hell trembles because of it. Because every time a man or woman chooses sacrifice over self, chooses obedience over indulgence, chooses the eternal over the temporary, that is a death blow to darkness. That is how you grow. Look at your life. Are you willing to suffer a little in order to become someone of substance? Are you willing to lose now so you can gain later? Because everything in this world will tell you the opposite. Everything in this culture screams, have it now, feel good now, don't wait, don't deny. And if you follow that voice, you will be comfortable but shallow. You will be entertained but empty. You will be surrounded by noise and still feel lost. You cannot have strength without struggle, and struggle demands sacrifice. If you want to build muscle, you must tear the fibers. If you want endurance, you must embrace fatigue. If you want character, you must welcome trials. And if you want to grow spiritually, then you must crucify the flesh. That is not an idea. It is a command. That is not for the elite. It is for every one of us. And I am not saying this to make you feel condemned. I am saying this because I care enough to tell you what many will not. I'm saying this because I have seen too many fall by the wayside, not because they weren't gifted, not because they weren't called, but because they refused to die to self, because they loved their comfort more than their calling. Because they traded the eternal for the immediate. If you want to grow, then you must learn to tell your flesh no. No to laziness, no to excuses, no to lust, no to pride, no to fear, no to the need to be constantly validated. Growth happens when you choose what is right over what is easy, when you stay in the fire until the impurities are burned out, when you stop asking, how can I feel better, and start asking, what does obedience look like right now? There is no strength without pain. Do you think heroes are born on couches? Do you think faith is forged in luxury? Never. Never in the history of mankind has greatness been birthed from comfort. Every man or woman who has ever made a mark has walked through valleys, has laid things down, has bled in secret places. They have prayed when they didn't feel like it. They have risen early when sleep called out. They have kept going when no one clapped. That is the soil of strength. That is where growth takes root. Self-denial is not a prison. It is a pathway to freedom. Because every time you deny the lower desires, you make room for something higher. Every time you say no to sin, you say yes to holiness. Every time you walk away from indulgence, you take a step closer to purpose. And though it may not feel good in the moment, it is building something in you that cannot be shaken. And let me be clear, sacrifice is not the same as self-hatred. This is not about abusing yourself or despising your body or walking in shame. No, it is about love, the kind of love that says, I will not settle for anything less than what God has for me. The kind of love that values the soul more than the senses. The kind of love that embraces discipline because it sees the beauty on the other side of it. You want to grow, then stop waiting for it to be easy. Stop looking for shortcuts. Stop chasing feelings. Start embracing sacrifice. Start choosing the hard path. Start denying the impulses that would keep you bound. Because growth is not about how much you feel. It's about how much you obey. Obedience when it's hard. Obedience when no one sees. Obedience when it costs everything. You say you want to be strong. Then ask yourself, what have you given up? What have you laid down? What comforts have you walked away from for the sake of something greater? Because strength is not measured by how much you gain, but by how much you're willing to lose. It's not about what you hold in your hands, but what you've released. And many people are weak not because they aren't doing enough, but because they're holding on to too much. Let me tell you what you must lay down if you want to grow. You must lay down your right to be understood all the time. You must lay down your obsession with being liked. You must lay down your addiction to pleasure. You must lay down your desire to control. You must lay down your fear of rejection. And you must do it again and again and again. Not because it's easy, but because it's worth it. And no, it won't always make sense. And no, people won't always applaud you. But you weren't called to live for the approval of man. You were called to die to self and live to Christ. And Christ did not promise ease. He promised the cross. But on the other side of that cross is life. On the other side of that cross is joy that cannot be stolen, peace that cannot be explained, power that cannot be bought. The way up is down. The way to growth is surrender. And surrender is not a one-time decision. It is a daily death. Every day you get up and say, not my will. Every day you open your hands and say, take what you want, Lord. Every day you shut the door to comfort and open the door to conviction. And when you do that, something beautiful happens. You begin to change, not on the outside, but in the places no one sees. You begin to carry something eternal, something holy, something unshakable. And this kind of growth is not loud. It's not flashy. It's not trendy. It's deep. It's strong. It's rooted. And it lasts. It doesn't fade with feelings. It doesn't crack under pressure. Because it was built on the foundation of sacrifice. It was forged in the fires of self-denial. So ask yourself, am I willing to suffer for something greater? Am I willing to delay gratification for eternal reward? Am I willing to be overlooked now so I can be faithful later? If you are, then rejoice, because you are on the path of the few, the narrow road, the road that leads to life, the road that demands everything, but gives even more. You are not called to comfort, you are called to grow, and growth comes at a cost, but the cost is worth it. Every tear, every sleepless morning, every lonely choice, every no that feels like death, each one is a brick in the foundation of a life that will not be shaken. So embrace the pain, welcome the silence, love the sacrifice, because in it you are becoming who you were created to be, and that is worth everything. There is something deeply spiritual and profoundly practical about the way a man begins his day. The first hour after your eyes open is not neutral. It is formative. It is the shaping ground of your mind, your spirit, your strength. You do not wake up and then decide what kind of day it will be halfway through. No, the day is already taking shape in the first thoughts you allow, the first choices you make, the first steps you take. And so, I must say this with urgency, a strong morning sets the tone for a purposeful life, and if you squander your mornings, you will stumble through your life with no direction and no power. There is a war that begins every single morning, and it is not just fought in the external world. It is fought in the unseen, where the spirit wrestles against the flesh. Your alarm clock is not just a sound, it is a call to battle. And the way you respond reveals who is in control. Is it your flesh, still hungry for sleep, for pleasure, for postponing responsibility? Or is it your spirit, alive, alert, and driven by something greater than comfort? The men and women who walk in purpose are not those who drift from moment to moment, always reacting, always responding, always catching up. No, they are those who start their day with intention. They do not wait to be told what matters. They decide, from the first moment of the morning, to live by conviction and not by convenience. They take command of the day by first submitting to the one who holds the day. They orient themselves around what is eternal before they engage with what is temporary, and yet so many wake up with no plan, no structure, no reverence. They reach first for a screen, not for Scripture. They look at what others are doing before they have looked at who they are becoming. They let the notifications of the world speak before the voice of God has had a chance to speak. And then they wonder why they walk through the day feeling fragmented, aimless, tossed about by every distraction and emotion. Don't you see? The day begins to spiral the moment you give your first minutes to things that don't matter. You must rise and remember who you are. You must rise and remember what you are called to, because the world will not remind you. The world will try to erase your purpose the moment you step into it. The enemy of your soul will whisper that you are small, that you are late, that you are overwhelmed, that you are powerless. And if you have not met with truth before you hear the lies, you will believe them. You will live out of them. You will act like someone who has no anchor. A purposeful life is not born in a single moment of passion. It is sustained by thousands of unseen acts of faithfulness, many of them in the morning. Waking up with purpose does not mean you leap out of bed every day with fire in your bones. It means you get up even when you don't feel like it. It means you choose structure over sloth. It means you put first things first, even when every part of you wants to procrastinate. And when you do this day after day, you will begin to live from a place of focus that few people know. Purpose is not discovered in a day. It is lived into over time. And the mornings you think are small, the mornings that feel routine, are actually laying the tracks that your whole life will run on. Because what you repeatedly do in the first hour of your day will determine the direction of your heart. And the direction of your heart will determine the course of your life. If you want to live with direction, then start your morning with discipline. If you want to live with clarity, then start your morning in the presence of God. If you want to be resilient in the face of hardship, then start your morning in stillness and surrender, because strength is not manufactured in chaos. It is cultivated in order, and order begins the moment you wake. But understand this, the strength to have a strong morning does not come from within you. It comes from the Spirit of God. You cannot will yourself into transformation. You must yield yourself into obedience. This is not about proving your worth through performance. It is about positioning yourself in a posture of dependence, so that grace can work through you, so that the Word can wash you, so that prayer can realign you, so that worship can soften you. These are not rituals, they are lifelines, and if you neglect them, you will not drift toward purpose. You will drift toward passivity. I've seen so many with great potential squander it by living reactively. They wait to feel motivated before they act. They wait for crisis before they seek clarity. They wait until the middle of the day to try to get back what was lost in the first hour. But that is not how a purposeful life is built. A purposeful life is forged before the noise begins. It is carved out in the silence, where you look in the mirror and decide who you will be. Not who others say you are, not what your failures tell you, but who God has called you to be. And you need that reminder every day, because forgetfulness is your constant battle. Your mind is a battlefield, and your heart is a garden. What you plant in the morning will bloom by evening. If you plant peace, you will walk in calm. If you plant fear, you will walk in worry. If you plant discipline, you will walk in momentum. If you plant distraction, you will walk in confusion. Do not deceive yourself. What you allow in the morning, you will carry all day. The purposeful man is not simply the busy man. Busyness is not purpose. Noise is not significance. The man who begins his day in silence before God is far more powerful than the one who rushes into the world without pausing to seek wisdom. The strongest man in the room is not the one who moves the most. It is the one who moves in alignment with something eternal. That alignment is not automatic. It must be established, and the best time to establish it is when the day is still young. When you wake with reverence, when you approach the morning with fear of the Lord, you begin to realize that time is not a burden. It is a stewardship. Each morning is a gift, a breath from God, a chance to begin again. And it should be received with gratitude and offered back to Him in surrender. That kind of posture creates a different kind of life, a life that is not tossed by waves, but grounded like a tree, a life that is not frantic, but fruitful. And let me tell you, this does not come naturally. It must be trained. You must train your mind to wake with intention. You must train your heart to seek what is above. You must train your hands to serve rather than scroll. This is not legalism. This is maturity, because mature people don't need to be entertained in order to act. They don't need to feel inspired in order to do what's right. They simply choose the right thing until it becomes who they are. If you train yourself to rise with purpose, to start each day with God, then you will find that over time, your life begins to change in ways you never expected. You will speak with more clarity. You will love with more depth. You will suffer with more hope. You will lead with more integrity, because purpose is not a feeling. It is a foundation, and every foundation must be laid one stone at a time. The men who change the world do not begin their day in chaos. They begin in quiet conviction. They begin with fire in their soul, not because everything is easy, but because everything is ordered, and that order begins the moment they wake. The woman who builds a home of peace, the student who shapes a campus, the worker who serves with excellence, all of them begin their day the same way, with vision, and vision is born in the morning. You cannot separate purpose from practice. You cannot live a powerful life and neglect the first moments of your day. It is not about being perfect. It is about being consistent. It is about showing up when no one is watching. It is about choosing what matters when everything else screams for attention. It is about remembering that God meets the humble, not the hurried, that He speaks to those who wait, not to those who rush. So if you want to live with purpose, then start with the morning. Start by choosing truth over noise. Start by choosing discipline over delay. Start by choosing Scripture over scrolling, prayer over pressure, worship over worry. You will not always feel like it, but that's the point. Feelings are not your master. Truth is, and if you plant truth in the morning, you will walk in truth the rest of the day. And over time, your life will become different, not by accident, not by hype, but by intention, by grace, by quiet obedience that compounds day after day, morning after morning. Because a strong morning does more than build a good day. It builds a life that echoes eternity, a life that blesses others, a life that fulfills its calling, a life that does not just exist, but lives with purpose.